It's finally time for the season to start, and we've all been looking forward to it for what seems like weeks. But I want you all to understand that it's better for all of us if this takes longer. Why? That's because it means there is more money building up behind this space, which will flow into big caps and the old coins we hold. Now, this is where we start to get rich. I'd like to talk a little about what Tom Lee told us recently in this video because we're seeing a big change happening right now that proves how we altcoin users are right. It doesn't matter if you hold XRP or HBR. How exactly are we going to make a lot of money from what Tom Lee is doing here? First, I'll talk about how to get to alt season. You guys aren't afraid of this picture. I've talked about it a lot in the past 2 weeks because I really believe we are now in step 2. At this point, the strength, demand, and bind behind Ethereum are stronger than those behind Bitcoin. This is shown by the fact that Ethereum has been rising stronger than Bitcoin during this recent market move. Things are really speeding up for Ethereum, and not just on the institutional side, but also on the business side. I've already talked to you about some of these red lights, right? One big thing is how Ethereum is used. It did its best day of the year. More than 1.82 million trades happen every day. And this is being driven in part by Layer 2 adoption, RWA tokenization, and DeFi activity. Also, people are crazy about buying Ethereum right now, and it's because public companies are beginning to buy more Ethereum. Big names are starting to really push Ethereum in a big way. Institutional investors who own Ethereum ETFs are happy about how much money has been coming into their funds. They've been coming in faster than Bitcoin ETFs. Yes, when we think about it, the second part has begun. The good end is that Bitcoin is starting to lose its value and Ethereum is starting to gain it. It's now time to lock in. Now is the time to pay attention to this if you have an altcoin. Because of what just happened with Bitcoin into Ethereum, and it's only the beginning. Also, wait until you see how high Ethereum goes. The same thing is going to happen with Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies. Here, all we need to do is wait. And I know that's a lot to ask because we've been very patient so far. But believe me, the wait will be worth it. Let's talk about some things that aren't related to Ethereum now. That's the world stock of M2, which is also very important to pay attention to. The quantity of M2 has been going up all over the world, from China to the US, the EU to Japan, and even Germany. As for China, theirs has been going up a lot since the beginning of the year and is now at a high level. What's going on with the US is the question, right? Because we just passed $22.02 trillion, up from $21.88 trillion before. The next one will come out on August 26th, which is the end of this month. We could see the big rise right here. It's possible to see the whole year, right? Let's go back to December 2024 for now. We were at 21,441, which for those who don't know equals $21.4 trillion. We've now reached 22 trillion. So since December, we've added nearly $600 billion to the world's M2 stock for the US. Just think about how crazy that is. Now, I'm really focused on this next release because I think we're going to go from 22,000 to 22,000. That's why it's given in billions of dollars. So the value of the dollar will likely drop from $22 trillion to about $22.2 trillion because the Federal Reserve has been quickly and quietly adding money to the system to keep markets stable in a much bigger way. And why do they care about this? First, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have been closely tracking the M2 quantity. At this point, there's a 92% chance that rates will be lowered at the next FOMC meeting in S. Okay, Ethereum is going crazy now. We're now in phase 2 of old season, and Ethereum is going crazy. We can see that the empty stock is going crazy. There is now a 90.2% chance that rates will go down in September, a 96.7% chance that rates will go down in October, and a 99.3% chance that rates will go down in December. This will make it easy for the Federal Reserve to print even more money, which will keep markets going up even more and add even more cash to the system. The M2 supply is going to go crazy because of this. The price of crypto and stocks will also go through the roof. This is also happening at a time when XRP is worth more than $3 and Ethereum is worth almost $3,700. I bring this up now because XRP has also done better than Ethereum over the last year. There is no doubt that Ethereum will catch up, but I still believe that XRP will continue to do better. Which brings up the question, how high do you think Ethereum will go this cycle? Price forecasts have been around for a while now. We've heard 10,000, 15,000, and 20,000. Some people are a little lower at about 7,500, 8,500, or 9,500. In my view, I believe it would be easy to reach the 10K zone. I don't think it would surprise me at all. A lot of people will say that's crazy, but think about where Bitcoin is. BTC is almost back to 115K. It cost over $123,000. During the last run, it was around $67,000. The reasonable way to look at this is that our value almost doubled from the previous all-time high. And while we're talking about Ethereum, its all-time high is almost $5,000. It makes a lot of sense that a double here would be about 10,000. Suppose Ethereum does reach $10,000. At that point, we'll think about that altcoin season index flow, right? Alternative coins like XRP would go crazy because of this. At the same time, Bitmain's chairman Tom Lee said that the company W holds 833,000 Ethereum, which is close to $3 billion. This makes it the world's biggest Ethereum treasury and the third largest crypto treasury overall. Look at this. I was on the show just a month ago to say I was going to be chairman. The stock was $4.50 at the time. We also told everyone about a $250 million investment led by Founders Fund, Mosaics, and other groups. But we told everyone today that we had almost $3 billion worth of ETH. Then the person who has the most ETH, yes, it is the world's biggest youth treasury and third biggest crypto treasury. We also told you that Bill Miller III put a lot of money into Bitmain last week. Thus, he joins Cathie Woods in putting money into our business over the last few weeks. What's even crazier is that this is helping Ethereum grow, right? As I already said, big names in the business world like Tom Lee are now putting huge amounts of money into Ethereum. At this point, this is how Ethereum's all-time picture looks. We're fighting the rebels and can't wait for this to end. We've now hit resistance 8 times, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, and 7 times. By the way, this isn't a daily light. The light is lit once a month. There have been a lot of tests of that big resistance. The second we finally reach our goal of $4,000, we finally get to that 5K area, you should buckle up. Because once more, this is where the wild move in the altcoin market starts. Anyway, Tom Lee thinks that the market will have a big rise in August and that it will set new all-time highs in the next few weeks. With Fed pressure easing, the markets could go crazy. I agree that we are in the best weather right now, the perfect storm, and it's not a bad storm. It's not a bad storm. We'll talk more about this soon. Pay close attention to what Tom Lee says here, since the Fed has 2 jobs to they might have been able to figure out that there was a greater risk of a slowdown than of inflation. Do you think they missed some of that and the fighting? Trump said you got to cut. Yes, I agree that the Fed needs to show that it is independent, but you're right. It looks like they're moving farther away from their dual mandate when it comes to jobs because the unemployment rate is now almost 5% if you use the participation rate that was in place before this report. The Fed now has to think about the chance that the job market will actually start to get worse. But you've also been, dovish when it comes to inflation. For some reason, you didn't think that the tariff system would have a big effect. That's right. First, the most important thing to remember is that inflation has been pretty low when you look at the report on goods that are affected by tariffs. On the other hand, we're actually below 2% if you use the same inflation measure that Europe does, which is inflation ex housing. If the Fed were the ECB, they would be cutting rates right now. That's interesting. So by the end of the year, what goal are you setting now and how long do you have to reach it? I believe that we will have a strong rise in August. I believe we can reach new highs of 65,000, 16,600 in the next few weeks. Then another 7,000 in the next 12 months? Yes, most likely a lot more than that. A lot more than that. I agree with Tom Lee on this point. I really believe that most people are expecting the market to drop even more. They aren't checking into what's going on behind all the noise. You should think about it, right? Consider money market funds as an example. We've been tracking this since as early as 2022 to help support the idea that the market had reached its lowest point and that a lot of money could be put into the crypto market. At the moment, $7 trillion is just sitting there. Guys, $2 trillion of this $7 trillion comes from shopping. Take a look at that. Retail has $2.9 trillion in their hands right now, $4.2 trillion for institutions. This is how much money is just sitting there, waiting for something big to happen. What if markets keep going up and up, making people feel fear of missing out, FOMO? Stocks are already going up, right? We talked about it, right? The blues on the demand zone. We had a nice run, so I think we're now cooling off. We're getting cooler now. We could cut this up a bit. I'd be happy to chop some, but this is what I want to do, right? There is a big surge that I can see, and it does happen. The moment